very important part of my task is to ensure the chair is at the right height. Otherwise, you won't see me, which may be a good thing. Before we ask the witness to be sworn, there's just a few things I'd like to say. So if you'd sit down for the moment, Mr. Bradshaw. First of all, I'd like to express the hope that those of you who are regular participants in the inquiry have had a good break and you are refreshed and ready for action, so to speak. Over the next 3 weeks, we will be finishing phase 4 of the inquiry, and it will finish with evidence from Mr. Bradshaw today, evidence from a number of employees and ex-employees of Fujitsu next week. And then following that, we will look at 1 or 2 of the cases in other parts of the United Kingdom, namely Northern Ireland and Scotland. And then we'll hear oral submissions from some of the co-participants, no doubt, and receive written submissions from others. There'll then be a bit of a break. That, I'm afraid, is inevitable because in between phases, my extremely hard-working inquiry team need to be prepared for the commencement of each phase, as, of course, do all the co-participants. I wish I could tell you today precisely how long that break will be, but I can't do that, not least in part because it is dependent upon the disclosure issues carrying on smoothly. And as everyone will know, from time to time, we have hiccups about that. And I should remind everyone that in the phases to come, it is not just the Post Office who will have an important obligation in relation to disclosure, because we will be delving in the phases to come into the activities of government departments and civil servants and senior people of that kind. So there will be important disclosure to be made by government as well as Post Office. So that's why I can't be precise about the length of the break before the start of phases 5, 6, and 7. But you'll have seen on our website that we intend that those phases should be in the spring and summer of this year, and that is my hope. My wife was extremely alarmed to hear a news report yesterday that suggested that phase 6 would not start until the spring of next year. And I was under severe pressure over that, I can assure you. And it is certainly my intention that that phase starts long before the spring of next year. I am pleased to report that the inquiry has appointed an expert witness to deal with the governance issues. In fact, there are 2. It's Dame Sandra Dawson and Dr. Katie Stewart. They will be advising the inquiry in much the same way as Mr. Atkinson KC did over criminal and prosecution matters, and Mr. Scipione did about some of the technical aspects relating to Horizon. And they are now busily engaged in looking at all the relevant documents and preparing their evidence. So we're doing our best to comply with the, I won't say promise, but hope that I've always expressed, that we would proceed diligently and expeditiously and as quickly as reasonably practicable. But I've proved to be very bad at predicting these things, as you will all realize. But there it is. We have to do a thorough job, and in the end, doing a thorough job and hopefully getting it right is more important than a few months here or there. So thank you very much for listening to those opening remarks. And I'll now invite Mr. Bradshaw to be sworn and Mr. Blake to ask him questions.
If you repeat after me. I swear by Almighty God.
I swear by Almighty God.
That the evidence I shall give.
That the evidence I shall give.
Shall be the truth.
Shall be the truth.
The whole truth.
The whole truth.
And nothing but
and
the
nothing
truth.
but the truth.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Blake, I think before you ask Mr. Bradshaw questions, he is in a category of witness where it is appropriate for me to give what's called the self-incriminating warning. Is that correct?
That is correct, sir, yes.
Can I ask you, first of all, Mr. Bradshaw, are you legally represented today? Right, thank you. So you probably know that under our law, a witness at a public inquiry has the right to decline to answer a question put to him, either by counsel to the inquiry or by any legal representative, or for that matter by me, if there is a risk that the answer to that question would incriminate the witness. This legal principle is known in shorthand form as the privilege against self-incrimination. Mr. Bradshaw, I have decided that it is appropriate that I remind you of that principle before you begin your evidence. However, it is for you to make clear to me, in respect of any question put to you, that it is you who wish to rely upon the privilege, and not for me to keep interrupting, if you understand. If, therefore, any questions are put to you by any of the lawyers who ask you questions, or, as I have said, by me, which you do not wish to answer, on the ground that to answer might incriminate you, you must tell me immediately so that I can consider your objection and then after rule upon whether your objection should be upheld. Now, you've just told me that you are represented here today by a lawyer or lawyers. So if the issue relating to self-incrimination arises, I will permit those lawyers to assist you. So if at any stage during the questioning you wish to consult your lawyers, then you must tell me, and then I'll consider how it's appropriate to proceed. All right?
Yes,
Do you understand all that?
I understand, and thank you.
Thank you very much. Over to you, Mr. Blake.
Thank you very much. Can you give your full name, please?
Stephen Bradshaw.
Thank you. Mr. Bradshaw, could I ask you to come slightly forward towards the microphones? A stenographer is also taking a note, so if you could speak as slowly and carefully as possible. Thank you. You have produced 2 witness statements in this inquiry so far. They should be in a bundle in front of you. The first witness statement, we have a URN of WITN 04450100, and that should be behind the first of those tabs. Do you have that in front of you?
I do, yes.
Thank you. Is that statement dated the 26th of June of 2023?
That's correct.
Thank you. Could I ask you to turn to page 14 of that statement, please?
Yes,
Do you see your signature there?
I do.
Yes. And can you confirm that that statement is true to the best of your knowledge and belief?
That is my signature, yes.
Thank you. And we have a second statement. The unique reference number is WITN 04450200. That should be in a tab behind that statement.
It is.
And that's dated the 16th of October 2023, is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. And if I could ask you to turn to page 8.
Yes,
Do you see your signature there?
I do.
And can you confirm that that statement is true to the best of your knowledge and belief?
It is. That's my signature.
Thank you very much. Those statements will be published on the inquiry's website, and they're now in evidence. I want to begin just by asking you a little bit about your background at the post office. You've been employed by the post office since 1978, is that correct?
That's correct.
You've held a wide range of roles. I think we've seen something called a telegraph officer and a counter clerk in the 1970s and 1980s, is that right?
Correct.
You were something called a television inquiry officer in the mid to late 1980s.
That's correct, yes.
You held various roles in the Royal Mail transport section.
Correct.
And then in 2000, around the time of the rollout of Horizon, you became part of the Post Office investigations team.
That's correct.
We see your role variously described as a fraud investigator and a security manager. Can you please assist us with which of those you were at a particular time, insofar as you're able?
From the beginning in 2000, the role was always there as an investigation manager, fraud advisor. The role remained the same of investigation, but the job title changed. And as it's rolled on towards the present day, it's just been changed to just security manager.
So you are currently employed by the Post Office as a security manager, having held a number of roles in the investigations team. I think it was first called a fraud investigator.
That's correct, yes.
Thank you. You've spent over 45 years at the Post Office.
I have.
We're going to deal in due course with what you knew at any particular time, but just in terms of your career, is it right to say that you've been at the Post Office from the beginning of complaints about the Horizon system through to the Justice for Sub-Postmasters campaign, the group litigation, Court of Appeal, overturning of convictions, and up to and including this inquiry itself?
I was enrolled within Post Office Limited, yes.
Yes. I'd like to bring onto screen your first witness statement, and that is WITN 044500100. And can we please turn to page 15 of that statement? We see from page 15, and if perhaps we could scroll over the page and over, we see all the documents that you were provided with in order to produce that statement. I think there are over 200 documents in total. Do you recall?
I've seen the documents and I've done my best to try and look up fully on each one.
And if we look at page 14, it stops at 14, so there are 14 pages of evidence in that statement. The statement itself addresses various case studies that we're going to be looking at today. Can we just turn to page 7, please? At the bottom of page 7, we begin with a case study of the case of Janet Skinner. And if we go over the page 8, paragraph 21 and 22, 21 says, there were no concerns, the investigation was conducted in a professional manner at all times. 22, I do not have any other reflections about this matter. Page 9, over the page.
Yeah.
We have Huey Noel Thomas. Again, paragraph 25, there were no concerns. The investigation was conducted in a professional manner at all times. 26, I have no other reflections about this matter. Next, scroll down the page, case of Caim Isach.
Yes.
And if we scroll over the page, same form of words, 28 and 29, there were no concerns. The investigation was conducted in a professional manner at all times. I have no other reflections about this matter. Further down that page, we get to the case of Lisa Brennan. Paragraph 33, there were no concerns. The investigation was conducted in a professional manner at all times. Over the page, please.
Yeah.
I have no other reflections about this matter. Lynette Hutchings, another case study. Paragraph 37, I could see no concerns about the conduct of this case. I have no other reflections about this matter. Scrolling down to Joan Bailey. Paragraph 40, there were no concerns. The investigation was conducted in a professional manner at all times. We scroll down. I have no other reflections about this matter. The case of Angela Sefton, paragraph 43, no concerns. Paragraph 44, no other reflections. Scrolling down, case of Anne Neild. If we keep on going down, paragraph 46, no concerns. Paragraph 47, no reflections. Susan McKnight, paragraph 49, no concerns. Paragraph 50, no reflections. Could we go over the page, please, to page 14? Paragraph 54. I don't know what technical issues were investigated by the Post Office. Paragraph 56. I can't recall, if any, what information I received concerning bugs, errors, and defects in the Horizon system. Paragraph 57. I do not have any reflections on this matter or other matters relevant to the terms of reference. Do you think that you have given enough thought over the past 20 years as to whether you may have been involved in what has been described as one of the largest miscarriages of justice in British history?
It would appear that through not being given any knowledge from the top downwards, that if any bugs, errors or defects was there, is not being cascaded down from Fujitsu, the Post Office Board, down to our level as the investigation manager.
So it's your evidence that because you didn't receive any information about bugs, errors and defects from somebody higher above you in the post office, you don't have any reflections on that?
I would see the Horizon system. I have no reason to suspect at the time that there was anything wrong with the Horizon system because we've not been told.
And that's over the time of your entire career at the post office?
That's correct.
Up
yeah.
till date when you drafted this witness statement and perhaps even up to today's date?
Correct, yes.
Do you think that the approach that you've taken to providing information to the inquiry, what looks like giving the bare minimum, was quite similar to the way that you approached your investigations?
No, not at all. I tried my best with the statements of what support. I can't put something down. If I wasn't told about any issues with the Horizon system, I can't put that down. The investigations were done correctly.
And that's because you weren't told anything about problems with the Horizon
The
system?
investigation was done at the time. No problems were indicated by anybody that there was issues with the Horizon system.
Can we look at poll 00325-402, please? This is an email of February 2010 from Christopher Knight. He is a lawyer to yourself, entitled Horizon Challenges. That's 15 years ago now. Could we scroll down that page, please? He forwarded to you a list of articles.
Yeah.
Talking Retail. We have BBC The Tarot Now. That's the report on Noel Thomas's case. An article from The Grocer. And the article that is well known to this inquiry, the Computer Weekly article written by Rebecca Thompson in 2009. You were, of course, aware in 2010...
Mr. Knight, who's an investigation manager at the time, I'd seen them and sent them on for information to people.
Yes, so you were aware in 2010 of a body of reporting in the public domain about problems with the Horizon system?
That's correct, yes.
And that didn't cause you to reflect a little bit more?
The only reflection is that during any investigation, if the issue of Horizon issues would have come up, it would have been explored with the person.
Can we look at FUJ 00154-879, please? And can we look at page 5, or begin on page 5? This is the 9th of February 2010, page 5. So the same year as those reports were forwarded to you. We have an email from yourself to somebody called Valerie Lipscomb. Who was Valerie Lipscomb? Do you remember?
I'm not sure whether she's part of the Horizon call centre, where you would get any... Because calls made into the business, you would have the business side of Paul, and then Horizon had their own call centre. So you needed two types of the calls to see whether anybody had called.
And you say there, Valerie, thanks for the logs. I was wondering if you could help me further. I require logs of all calls in relation to Horizon problems. Am I right in thinking the attached log is due to transactional queries? If we go to page 3 of the same email chain, at the bottom of page 3, please. We have an email there from Mark Dinsdale, Security Programme Manager at the Post Office. Could we scroll up slightly? To Penny Thomas, who is at Fujitsu. Do you recall Penny Thomas?
Penny Thomas was there, yeah.
And you're copied into that email.
That's right.
And he says, Penny, can we set up a process for these requests because we're getting more and more of them? Would you be able to provide the information Steve has requested? And that's about the Rinkfield case. So in 2010 and 2011, you were certainly aware of a body of cases relating to the Horizon system that were building up, were you not?
From that information, yes, and as I said, if it's come up within the interview, I took the actions to try and find out what the issue with the Horizon was, hence the logs. And in this case, Mr. Dinsdale had set up all contact with the Fujitsu would be done by the casework team.
Yes, but in 2010, you had received those articles relating to problems with Horizon. You were aware from this communication that there was a body of cases relating to concerns about the Horizon system. Didn't that cause you pause for thought?
The pause for thought is that when you would speak to the person being interviewed, you would take that into account. So if you're informed that there's an issue within Horizon, you would do your best to find out what the issue was.
But you began today by saying that nobody from above had been telling you about bugs, errors or defects.
I don't count Mr. Knight as somebody from above. He was just equal that he's taken it from the papers.
So you had been told by your equals that there were newspaper articles. You had been told by your equals that there was a growing body of cases, but that in itself was not sufficient for you to question the reliability of the Horizon system.
Because I'm not technically minded with that, I would expect that to come from the people above. If it was an issue, I would expect Fujitsu to inform the post office and the full post office to let us know what the issues are.
These documents are from 2010. We're going to go through a number of different case studies in due course. How early would you say you were aware of Horizon being raised as an issue?
It's raised during these, as you say, from 2010. People were raising it for between there and over the next few years.
And would you say 2010 is the starting point, or is there an earlier point?
I'm not. I think they may well have some may have mentioned it earlier.
Can we look at poll 00120723, please? This relates to the case of Kim Wiley. This isn't a case study that we're going to be looking at, but this is a document of February 2013. So that's 3 years after you received those articles from Computer Weekly, etc. And it's a letter from Cartwright King to Miss Wiley's solicitors, and it says, please find enclosed a notice of additional evidence, which includes 2 statements from Stephen Bradshaw, dated the 20th of November 2012 and 19th of February 2013, as well as an exhibit, which is an extract from the sub-postmaster's contract. At the bottom of the page here, it says, the Crown's position on the integrity of the Horizon system is set out in Steve Bradshaw's statement, dated 20th of November 2012. There's no further disclosure in relation to this matter. You've just said that you're not very technically minded. Do you think that the submission of a witness statement from you purporting to go to the integrity of the Horizon system, do you think that was appropriate?
No, because it depends on which statement it is. They used to put the statement through explaining the basics of the Horizon, that it was a keyboard, a scanner, a printer, and the basic workings of Horizon is that you scan. If you've got a document with a barcode, you would scan the barcode and the transaction would go through. That's all that's normally explained in the statements I give.
So you usually give a statement about the hardware, about there
Basically,
is a computer that's plugged into a keyboard, but you don't address the reliability of the Horizon system?
Not at all. Just the basic workings, as most people who have used the system, that it would record the transaction, money due to customer, money due from customer, just the basic knowledge working of the thing, not the technicalities of the system.
And that's because you didn't have the technical knowledge to know whether there were bugs, errors, or defects in the system. You didn't feel confident to address those kinds of things.
Not at all.
Can we scroll over a couple of pages then to page 5, please? And this is the witness statement that you submitted. We have your name at the top there, and it says as follows. After a number of meetings between the Post Office management and members of Parliament in relation to the court cases, it was agreed that the Post Office would undertake an external review of the cases which had been raised by the members' constituents. As the Post Office continues to have absolute confidence in the robustness and integrity of its Horizon system and its branch accounting processes, it has no hesitation in agreeing to an external review of these few individual cases. In order to provide assurance to the interested parties, it was proposed that the review be undertaken by independent auditors, Second Sight, etc. So you've there said in a witness statement that the Post Office continues to have absolute confidence in the robustness and integrity of its Horizon system. Having given the evidence that you've just given about your lack of knowledge of the system, your lack of knowledge of technical matters, do you think it was appropriate for you to write that in a witness statement, that the Post Office has absolute confidence in the robustness and integrity of the Horizon system?
I was given that statement by Cartwright King and told to put that statement through. In hindsight, after I've put further in my previous statements, there probably should have been another line stating that these are not my words, but the statement is produced as a business statement. I did not write that statement. We were told by Cartwright King to put that in.
Who told you to put it in?
It'd be one of the three members of Cartwright King: Martin Smith, Andrew Bradshaw, Rachel Panther. Will come from one of them.
So they drafted the entire statement and sent it to you, did they?
That's correct, yes.
And you didn't question it, you just signed it off?
Well, whether it was questioned at the time, I would have been concerned, but we were given the assurance that everything was fine to put that through, and they wanted to put it through. Nowadays, I wouldn't have put it at all with what's known, but the hindsight.
We began half an hour ago, or 20 minutes ago, by looking at your witness statement for this inquiry and looking at what appears to be a lack of reflection in that statement. Might having produced something like this have caused you to reflect on your involvement in something?
It may have done at the time, but it is some 11 years ago.
And you didn't think to yourself, I produced a witness statement in criminal proceedings that could cause somebody to go to prison, and I signed off the robustness of the Horizon system. That wasn't something that you thought you should reflect on in your witness statement?
As I said, this statement was given to me by Cartwright King, and we were told to put the statement through.
And how many
on
times?
Reflection, yes, when you look at it, but as I say, it's some 11 years ago, and a number of statements have been produced since.
But you were at the Post Office in a significant role during the group litigation, during the Court of Appeal proceedings, throughout this inquiry, and you didn't think back and perhaps regret having submitted a witness statement such as this in criminal proceedings?
As I say, with hindsight, it's regrettable that the statement went through like that, as if it's my words, which is not correct.
But it hasn't caused you any moment of reflection?
Of course it causes moments of reflection, because you look at it and go, that's completely wrong, because somebody's told me to put a statement through like that.
Do you know how many times you submitted statements like this?
Like that one, I couldn't say. It probably, that statement could have gone in from everybody within the security team to just about whatever case inquiry was ongoing at the time.
Sorry, are you saying that a statement in this form was probably made by other members of the security team in other cases, and on each occasion it was a statement drafted for them by a firm of solicitors, and they just put their name to it?
Sort of say, yes. Well, what it would be is that, as each case do, when the file has gone to the criminal law team, or in this case Cartwright King, they have given that statement to draft to put through as the integrity of the Horizon system at the time. That come from the lawyers.
Could we scroll down on the page, please? I'll just read another paragraph from this statement. It says at the bottom, all of the above is accepted based on the terms of review being carried out, but this is in no way an acknowledgement by the Post Office that there is an issue with Horizon. Over the past 10 years, many millions of branch reconciliations have been carried out, with transactions and balances accurately recorded by more than 25,000 different sub-postmasters, and the Horizon system continues to work properly in post offices across the length and breadth of the UK. When the system has been challenged in criminal courts, it has been successfully defended. And that's a 2013 witness statement. Thank you, that can come down. Mr. Bradshaw, in a request that was sent to you for a witness statement, there were a series of general questions. You have them in the bundle in front of you, but I can read them out. For example, to what extent, if any, did you consider a challenge to the integrity of Horizon in one case to be relevant to other ongoing or future cases? To what extent, if any, do you consider the investigation into bugs, errors or defects in Horizon was sufficiently carried out by the Post Office? Please set out your reasons in detail. To what extent, if any, do you consider information regarding bugs, errors and defects in Horizon was sufficiently passed to the Post Office by Fujitsu? Please set out your reasons in detail. To what extent, if any, do you consider you had sufficient information regarding bugs, errors and defects in Horizon? Who provided you with information, and if not, who should have? Looking back, do you have any reflections on these matters or any other matters relevant to the inquiry's terms of reference? Are there any other matters that you wish to bring to the attention of the chair of the inquiry? Could I ask for your witness statement, your first witness statement, to be brought back on screen, please? That's WITN 044-50100. And it's page 14, please, of that first statement. If we could scroll down slightly, these are your answers to that general section. We've been over them already this morning. I don't know what technical issues were investigated. I can't recall, if any, what information I received concerning bugs, errors, or defects. As somebody who wrote a witness statement in criminal proceedings in such strong, confident terms as we have just seen, might it have been sensible to have attempted to answer those questions that I've just gone through in a bit more detail?
If I remember fully that statement, now I've seen the statements and remember, Caim gave us that statement to produce. I just didn't, for them sorts of questions with that. It's just completely, it's a statement that. That's one of the few times I would say I don't recall that statement.
So when you came to draft your witness statement with those 200 documents that were provided to you by the inquiry, that statement, you didn't think, I've submitted some statements in criminal proceedings, may have caused somebody to go to prison. I signed off Horizon.
As I said, I went through as many documents and tried to bring, but there was an awful lot of documents to try and put together with the statements.
Thank you. That can come down. You said that statement came from Caim, who asked you to sign it. Do you know how that statement came to be drafted?
It was drafted by Caim and the Post Office.
And the Post Office?
The Post Office above, whether it's head of security upwards, I'm not sure.
Could we look at poll 000581155, please? Thank you. If we could turn to the final page, we have there a proposed form of words from Jarnail Singh. Do you remember Jarnail Singh?
I do.
He was the Post Office lawyer responsible for criminal matters, was he?
Correct, yes.
Do you recall somebody called Hugh Flemington?
Don't know him at all.
So Mr. Singh has sent Mr. Flemington a form of words. And if we scroll up, we see an email from somebody called Simon Baker. It's above that one, thank you. Do you recall somebody called Simon Baker?
I don't know, it's Simon Baker.
No? So he says, Alana, please can help us craft our message around the second site review. We need to combat the assertion that the review is acknowledgement that there is a problem with Horizon. Jarnell has drafted some words below. Do they strike the right tone? And if we scroll up, we have an email from Ronan Kelleher, who is the head of PR and media at the Post Office at the time. Do you remember Alwyn Lyons, who's copied in there?
Don't know where, no.
Alwyn Lyons was the company secretary. Susan Crichton,
I remember Susan Crichton,
she was the general counsel.
General Counsel, yes.
Mr. Flemington, I believe, was a lawyer. You don't recall him?
No.
And Ronan Kelleher says as follows. He says, as this message will most probably find its way into the media, we do need to get the message across from the start that we continue to have full confidence in the robustness of the Horizon system, and then reinforce it. So I suggest tweaking the proposed wording from Jarnell. Now I'll go through this form of words and I'll highlight to you the additional words that were added by the head of PR at the Post Office. It says, after a number of meetings between the Post Office management and members of Parliament in relation to the court cases, it was agreed that the Post Office would undertake an external review of the cases which had been raised by the members' constituents. Now, it's the next sentence that has been added by Mr. Kelleher. As the Post Office continues to have absolute confidence in the robustness and integrity of its Horizon system and its branch accounting processes, it has had no hesitation in agreeing to an external review of these few individual cases. Next paragraph, in order to provide assurance to the interested parties, it was proposed that the review be undertaken by independent auditors second sight. The review will be specifically restricted to the cases raised by the members of Parliament, as well as reviewing the accounting procedures, processes, and reconciliations undertaken in relation to the cases in question. Before formal instructions are given to the independent auditors, agreements will be sought from all interested parties, namely the members of Parliament and Justice for sub-postmasters. The sub-postmasters have requested forensic accountant of their choice be appointed to oversee the cases being reviewed by second sight. Over the page. All the above is accepted based on the terms of review being carried out, but this is in no way an acknowledgement by the Post Office that there is an issue with Horizon. And now we get to another sentence that was added by the head of PR. Over the past 10 years, many millions of branch reconciliations have been carried out with transactions and balances accurately recorded by more than 25,000 different sub-postmasters, and the Horizon system continues to work properly in post offices across the length and breadth of the UK. When the system has been challenged in criminal courts, it has been successfully defended. I think the last sentence there was Jarnell Singh's, but the one before was added in this chain of emails. Were you aware that the contents of your witness statement that we've seen reflected there was drafted by, among other people, the head of PR at the Post Office?
Not at all. All I seen was the final version when it came from Caim.
And do you think it was appropriate for your witness statement to have been drafted in the way that it was?
No, not really, no.
You say not really?
No, not really, because it's not my words. It's not. A statement is normally what you will say to me, and I would write that down, rather than appears to be a business statement drafted by PR and approved by the lawyers.
Did you have any conversations with the lawyers at Cartwright King or Jarnell Singh about the contents of the witness statement that you were signing?
If I did, I can't remember what was said, because, as I say, it's 11 years ago, whether I brought up saying, why are we putting this in or whatever. But we're just given assurance that everything was okay and had been approved.
You gave, no doubt, other witness statements throughout the lifetime of your career at the Post Office. Was it your usual practice to sign a statement that had been drafted for you by others?
I can't recall any that have been drafted by others. There may have been one or two, but it's normally me. I would have produced my own witness statement, or it would have been taken by a third party.
In those circumstances, did this not stand out to you as somewhat unusual?
As I say, yes, and then if it was queried, you know, the assurance was it's come from the lawyers and everything is fine with it.
Do you remember any conversation you had querying it?
I can't at all.
I'm going to move on now to some case studies, and I'm going to begin by looking at the case of Lisa Brennan. This is a case where the Court of Appeal quashed the conviction, and I'll just start by looking at what the Court of Appeal had to say, and that's poll 001133278. Thank you. This is the Court of Appeal judgment in Joe Hamilton and others. Can we please look at page 59, which addresses the case of Lisa Brennan? And it's the bottom of page 59. It says there, Lisa Brennan, who had been a post office counter clerk when she was 16 years old, was convicted on 27 counts of theft, representing a shortfall of £3,482.40. Just pausing there, was it usual to have so many counts of theft representing what is a relatively small shortfall?
The difference with this one, it's a P&A, it's a pension and allowance docket or voucher. In this case, was the vouchers were overstated. There's a number of different types of fraud that took place concerning these vouchers, and this is an overstated voucher, i.e. the value had been increased, and it was first found and detected during a routine check by the DWP in their branch in Leicester Alley.
So are you saying it's 27, possibly 27 vouchers to the total value of £3,000?
That's correct, yes.
Yes. And the Court of Appeal says as follows. On the 6th of September 2003, she was sentenced to 6-month imprisonment, suspended for 2 years. As a result of the proceedings against her, she was forced to file for bankruptcy. The Post Office decided to pursue criminal charges against Miss Brennan in relation to events in 2001, close in time to the rollout of Horizon, which we know rolled out from 2000 onwards. According to the limited available documentation, the prosecution case was that she paid out cash for allowance and benefit vouchers. She removed more cash than was permitted by the voucher and kept the difference herself. The evidence of theft depended on the difference between the amount Horizon showed and had been entered onto the system and the lesser amount of the voucher. Ms. Brennan admitted the discrepancies. She said that they were errors on her part because of problems at home and pressures of work. She denied theft and said she didn't know what had happened to the money. The Post Office accepts that this was an unexplained shortfall case and that the evidence from Horizon was essential to Ms. Brennan's case. Her explanation was she must have made keystroke errors when entering voucher amounts onto Horizon. The prosecution did not consider whether a bug, error or defect could have affected this process. There's nothing to indicate that any ARQ data, that's Fujitsu audit data, do you recall that?
I do.
Yes. Was obtained at the time of the criminal proceedings. There was no evidence to corroborate the Horizon evidence. The issue at trial was dishonesty, but there was insufficient proof of appropriation. The Post Office concedes only that Ms. Brennan's prosecution was unfair, but we're bound to conclude that her prosecution was, in addition, an affront to justice. Could we please look at poll 000473222? And this is the record of interview. And if we scroll down slightly, you were the interviewing officer in Miss Brennan's case alongside somebody called Anthony or Tony Gardner, is that correct?
Correct.
Was Mr. Gardner a similar role to you in the investigations team?
Mr. Gardner was, he'd been part of the post office, the old post office investigation department for about 20 years.
Thank you. It begins addressing introductions made, caution issued. The caution was explained to Ms. Brennan, legal rights explained, and the presence of legal representation was declined. So it seems as though she turned down legal representation, but she had a union representative within that interview. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Could we please turn to page 11? sorry, page 10 even. We'll start from page 10. I'm going to read to you some extracts from this interview. We have there AG, that's Mr. Gardner. He says, we've got a choice of two things, haven't we, Lisa? Either you're totally incompetent and you're costing Post Office £300 or £400 a week, and therefore we can't afford to keep you. And she says, don't sack me. Or you're fiddling the pensions deliberately and you're pocketing the money. No, I haven't got it. I haven't got it. I haven't. And he says, someone's got it. She says, I haven't got it. And if we scroll down the page, you then become involved in the interview here, and you say, it equates to about £5,000. No, I don't think it's carelessness. I don't think Tony thinks it's carelessness. And she says, I haven't got it. And it's summarised. Miss Brennan explained her financial and personal circumstances. And you say as follows. So you actually earn a bit more than £180. OK, if we just go off this, not that you're saying these are all mistakes, carelessness, isn't it a bit strange that they're just happening in the pensions and not in your other work? And she says, like in what? And you say, well, your gyros have not been proved to be wrong, your savings bank has not been proved to be wrong, it's only pensions that have been proved to be wrong by £100 or £200 at a time. She says, I don't know. And then you say, and then Mr. Gardner says, I think it's a question of not whether you've done it, but why you've done it. And she says, I haven't done it. And he says, I think you've done it deliberately. And she says, I haven't done it, I haven't done it. I've had pressures, the work's been dead, the work we're doing. And then he says this, no one else is making mistakes like you. And she says, they don't work as fast as me. I've been working dead fast. Can we go back, please, to your witness statement? That's WITN 04450100. And it's page 6, paragraph 19A. Now, you're addressing a different case study in paragraph 19A. It's page 6, thank you. You're addressing the case of McDonald in this particular paragraph, but you say here, I can categorically state that I have never said to any person I have interviewed, and definitely not to Jacqueline McDonald, that she was the only one in that position. Should we take that statement to mean that I, Stephen Bradshaw, never said to anybody that they were the only one in that position, but the person sitting next to me in the interview may well have?
I wouldn't expect anybody sitting next to me to say you're the only one in that position that this has happened to. I've never heard that be said.
Perhaps we'll return back to the interview then. Poll 0004732.
May I just clarify? I think and I know what you're going back to. If it's saying you're the only one in that position, that would be for in that particular branch. Nobody else is having the same issues.
Let's have a look at page 11 of the interview that we were just looking at, please. It's halfway down. Mr. Gardner said, no one else is making mistakes like you. You were in that interview, you were sitting next to him. Did you correct him? Did you say, that's not an appropriate thing to say?
As I explained, it has to be taken in the right context. In this case, for pension allowances, everybody's pension allowance submissions in that branch was checked. The only issues within the B stock unit that Miss Brennan had, they were the only issues. She was the only one in that post office that had the issue for pension allowance. No other work was affected. And the reason, after you've cashed the pension allowance vouchers, you get a printout, and either Miss Brennan or another member of staff would check the number of vouchers against the printout, and that's where you would identify any error.
Quite a number of people have given evidence to this inquiry saying that they were told that they were the only ones that this was happening to. A fair reading of that is surely that she is being told that no one is making mistakes on the Horizon system.
As I say, it has to be taken in the right context within that branch, that she was the only one that was having issues with the pension and allowance submissions.
Do you think that that was therefore an appropriate thing to say to her? That nobody else is making mistakes like you?
In that branch, nobody else was having them mistakes.
So you have no concerns about that form of words being used in that interview?
No, because their pension allowances were checked, and it was found that the only her submissions had shown overstated vouchers.
You have no concerns about Mr. Gardner and his approach to asking questions in interview?
It's a PACE interview.
It's a what, sorry?
It was an interview in accordance with PACE.
Did you call it a police interview
No,
or a PACE?
PACE, sorry. And the questions are difficult.
Do you think that you were professional during the course of the interviews that you carried out?
I do, yes.
Do you think Mr. Gardner was professional in the interviews that
yes.
you carried out? I'd like to move on to the case of Janet Skinner, please, and that's Pol 00113278. Ms. Skinner was another appellant in the Josephine Hamilton Court of Appeal case. She had her conviction quashed. Could we look at page 45, please, which details what the Court of Appeal said about Ms. Skinner? They say on the 5th of January 2007, Janet Skinner pleaded guilty to one count of false accounting. We understand that the alleged shortfall was £59,000. On the 2nd of February, she was sentenced to 9 months imprisonment. Paragraph 191 says, during a post office audit, Mrs. Skinner had volunteered that there would be a £40,000 shortage of cash. In her interview under caution, she stated that the losses had begun in January 2006. She believed that she did not declare them as she couldn't afford to put it right. She believed that one of her members of staff had stolen the money, a belief in part predicated on the belief that such a large amount of money just couldn't go missing. The prosecution relied on the evidence of 3 of the 4 other members of staff, but we're not persuaded that their evidence was capable of materially advancing the prosecution case. Between the 1st of January 2004 and the 31st of January 2005, Mrs. Skinner made 116 calls to the National Business Support Centre. Some of those calls concerned horizon faults and balancing. The next paragraph, about halfway through that paragraph, it says, it appears that there was no evidence to corroborate the horizon evidence. There was no proof of an actual loss as opposed to a horizon-generated shortage. There was no investigation into the various helpline calls made by Mrs. Skinner. We're struck by the fact that the post office failed to take these steps despite Mrs. Skinner's long service to the post office and her professional progress, doubtless reflecting her trustworthiness from counter-clerk to permanent sub-postmistress of the North Bransholm Post Office. It says the post office conceded that it was unfair, but we are bound to conclude that her prosecution was an affront to justice. I'd like to look at some the transcript of interview in her case, and that's at Pol 00112971, please. Thank you. Can we turn to page 3? You were the interviewing officer in Miss Skinner's case alongside a colleague, Diane Matthews. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes. It was Miss Matthews was the lead investigator.
Thank you. Can we start by looking at page 6? I'm going to take you through a few parts of this transcript. About halfway down that page and to the bottom, there is her explanation. So she says it's just been going up and up for the past 5 months. She's asked by your colleague, do you want to give us an account of why there is over 59,000 short in your account? And she says, if I had the answer, I'd give you it. But I haven't. It started off 7,500 and it's basically gone up. And to be honest, I just thought that whoever was taking it would be putting it back. I mean, I can prove to you. I'm here because I want to prove that I'm innocent. If you want to search my house, you can. If you want to search my banks, you can. I've got nothing to hide whatsoever. I'm not a thief. There's another interview. If we go over to page 18, please. Sorry, actually, could we go to page 10? About halfway down page 10, there's a question from you. You say, do you know it was a criminal offence to falsify your accounts? And she says, yes, like I've said, it sounds really daft, really. It's a large amount of money, and I hope it gets found. I can be investigated in any way, and I have nothing to hide. There's a second interview, and we can see that at page 18. Again, it's conducted by Miss Matthews and yourself. Can we look at page 25, please? It's about halfway down and to the bottom of page 25. This is a conversation about a member of staff who was paying money back to Miss Skinner from a discrepancy that she had identified. And you say as follows, sorry, who is the sub-postmistress? Who's responsible for making losses? I'll start slightly above, actually. You say, by your own admission, you've not made your shortages good. £1,400 has been outstanding since November 2004. And she says, but it wasn't my outstanding shortage. And you say, sorry, who is the sub-postmistress? Who's responsible for making losses good? And she says, that is the only thing that I'm bothered about. You can investigate me as much as you want. I don't care. I've got nothing to hide. You can search my house. You can rip it apart. You can do the same with my bank account for the past 5 years. I've got nothing to hide whatsoever. The only thing that bothers me is the fact that somebody's going to be held responsible for that, and that somebody is me. And she's asked, and why is it going to be you? And she says, because it should have been my responsibility, and it should have been something I dealt with in the beginning, and I know that, and that goes through my head every day. And if I could answer for that sort of money, I would answer. I know that I can prove I haven't stolen any money. I ain't a thief. And then you ask, how do we know you haven't stolen that money? And she says, I know I haven't. I can sleep at night knowing I haven't. And you say, we've got £59,000 shortage in your accounts. You've offered no explanation as to where that money's gone. You've got a £1,400 loss. Everything is hunky-dory for 12 months. And she says, no, it isn't hunky-dory. I could force the woman to pay the money that she didn't have. I couldn't force the woman to pay the money that she didn't have, because that's all it is. I couldn't force her. She didn't have the money. All she kept saying was she didn't have the money. And then you say, but you rewarded her by giving her the keys. Come into the office. She said, yeah, I know, only because the customers were complaining that I was arriving at work late. And you say, get up earlier. Your responsibility. You took the role of being sub-postmaster. Diane will go through the rest. We're up to £9,000 and we have another £50,000 to find. And she says, the rest just went missing through the year. I can't explain it any other way. You can break it down into pounds or pennies or whatever you want, but I can't explain it. If I had an answer, I wouldn't be sat here. Get up earlier. Did you consider it to be part of your job to offer lifestyle advice to sub-postmasters?
Maybe not, but at the post, they were contracted to open up the post office at a certain time.
I mean,
And, you know, if you can't get up, you know, fine. I can't help my terminology. You know, we all come from different parts of the country, and we all have different ways of expressing it. You know, I apologise if they don't like that sort of terminology. It wasn't meant as any to be detrimental towards it. It's just so think if you're forever arriving late for work, people say to you about getting up early to arrive on time.
my question was, do you think it was appropriate to give lifestyle advice? Because your evidence yourself has been that you were carrying out an interview under the Police and Criminal Evidence Act, a very serious interview, do you think that it's appropriate for somebody who is questioning somebody in relation to a criminal offence, tells them that they need to get up earlier?
As I said, you know, if it's my terminology and it's not liked, I apologise for that. You know, it wasn't, the lifestyle is, she's there for 9 o'clock. She identified the person that she suspected of stealing the money. So, to save her coming in, she gave that person the keys. That's all that conversation is. It has to be taken in the context as I go. When you read something, it can sound better or worse than when it's actually spoken at the time.
Mr. Bradshaw, you still work for the Post Office.
I do.
In the security department.
I do.
Do you consider still that it is appropriate to say somebody in an interview that is very similar to a police interview that they should get up earlier?
Some people may say yes, some people may say no. Fine, I'll concede and say no, it's not appropriate.
Some people may say yes, some people may say no. What do you say? Is it appropriate? Is it not appropriate?
As I say, it needs to begin the context of how the conversation goes. That to me at the time appeared to be okay. If you can't get up and you're always late, you could lose the post office just by opening too late.
If you were still carrying out this role, if you were still interviewing people, if you were interviewing somebody tomorrow, would you have any concerns about using that language in an interview?
I may phrase it a different way.
But you may still give similar advice.
It's a very difficult question, isn't it? Advice. It's not really advice. You know, in advice-wise, is, you know, if you, as I say, if you're always late, most people from being a small child in your school saying, you know, you'd need to get up earlier to get in on time.
Is it appropriate?
I don't see a great deal wrong with it if you can't get in on time.
What's its purpose, though? What purpose does it serve in an interview of this kind?
Well, the purpose was there is that she was always, what she said in the she gave the keys to somebody else to open, and that's fine. That she can do that, but the keys were given to somebody she suspected of stealing money, which is a bit strange, to me, is a bit strange.
But what does it matter to you whether she opens, somebody else opens? You're carrying out a criminal investigation here. You're not actually assisting her with the smooth running of her post office, are you?
Well, the smooth running would be that if she would be there to see what was happening from the post office from start to finish.
Is it still your evidence that you were professional during the interview?
Yes, I do.
I'm going to move on to the case of Jacqueline McDonald. Can we please look at poll 00113278, please? Thank you very much. We're back again to the Court of Appeal. I'd like to look at, it's paragraph 179. I don't have the page number, unfortunately, but if we can scroll down, scroll up a little bit more. Thank you. Jacqueline McDonald. On the 8th of November 2010, in the Crown Court at Preston, Jacqueline McDonald pleaded guilty to theft. She had pleaded guilty on the 5th of July 2010 to 6 counts of false accounting. On the 21st of January 2011, she was sentenced to a total term of imprisonment of 18 months. Confiscation order was made. As a result of the proceedings against her, Mrs. McDonald was forced to file for bankruptcy. An audit of her post office had revealed a shortage of £94,000. In interview, she said that she had experienced problems with Horizon, and when she contacted the helpline, she received no assistance. She denied theft, but accepted she had unintentionally made false accounts. Mrs. McDonald's defence statement made reference to problems experienced with Horizon. The defence made a number of disclosure requests, but the prosecution made no disclosure in respect of any Horizon reliability difficulties. Mrs. McDonald had made 216 calls to the National Business Support Centre about transaction and balancing problems. The pre-sentence report recorded her as saying that she had not stolen the money, but admitted to accepting the system balances as correct in order to roll over into the next trading period. If we scroll down, I'll read the bottom half of paragraph 182 and then into 183. Nevertheless, as the Post Office concedes this was a Horizon case, the prosecution case was dependent on data generated by Horizon, and yet there is nothing to indicate that any Fujitsu audit data was obtained at the time of the criminal proceedings. There was no evidence to corroborate the Horizon evidence. Issues raised by Mrs. McDonald were not investigated. There was no proof of an actual loss as opposed to a Horizon-generated shortage. Post Office concedes that her prosecution was unfair, but we conclude that the prosecution was an affront to justice. I'd like to look at her interview. That can be found at UKGI 000-14889. In this case, you were the interviewing officer. Are we to assume that the person who comes first is the main interviewer?
Yes.
Yes. So you're assisted there by a colleague, Suzanne Winter. Were you the officer in charge of the investigation of Miss McDonald?
Yes.
Yes. Were you the disclosure officer in her case as well?
All papers that I will have would have been disclosed to our criminal law team, who would then in turn disclose it to the defence.
I'm not asking about the quality of the disclosure,
No,
but in terms of your role, I think you signed schedules of material purporting to be a disclosure officer.
Yes, I think we take the role as disclosure officer as well. There's not an independent person.
Thank you. If we please could turn to page 5. I'm going to read to you a section of her interview transcript. It begins, I'm going to begin with you, who says, you've just admitted that you falsified your balance because you inputted figures to enable you to balance. She says, yes. You say, do you know that's a criminal offence? She says, no, I didn't. And then there's a summary. It says that you stated the accounts had possibly been falsified from either November or March. You produced some sheets and asked her to state who had written the figures on the sheets. She said that some were hers and some were her colleagues and some were just her colleagues. You asked if she had any time off. She said she had 2 days off in June. Her colleague was away in May. And then it says that you discussed the last sheets starting 27th of September, and she confirmed it was her writing. You asked her to explain what the figures are. She stated the figures were what was in the safe, in the roller, cash and the tills. She also stated that they were wrong and not worth the paper it was written on. It says SB asked where she would have got the figure of 65,000. She said it would have been from the balance from the computer. And then it stops summarising and goes into the actual words spoken. It says, would you like to tell me what happened to the money? She says, I don't know where the money is, I've told you. And you say, you've told me a pack of lies. She says, no, I haven't told you a pack of lies, because I haven't stolen a penny. Again, concentrating on words used in an interview, pack of lies, sounds somewhat like language you might see in a 1970s television detective show. Was pack of lies something that you would say to defendants?
The same terminology sort of come out. It's a pace interview, and it's not a nice interview. Normally, before any interview, the majority of times I speak to people and say to them, you know, it's not personal. The questions have to be asked. You won't like the questions. That's what it is. It is a criminal. It's a criminal interview in accordance with pace.
You have no difficulty with using those words.
It went through the court system afterwards, and nothing was picked up by a defence team to say that it was oppressive or aggressive.
So, because the defendant's representatives didn't say that it was oppressive, you think that it is therefore appropriate language to use in an interview?
As I say, it's a difficult interview.
Sticking with the same case, can we look at poll 00141259, please? We're now in November 2010. It's the same case. It's a memo to you from Phil Taylor, who's a legal executive in the Criminal Law Division. Could you scroll down, please? Can you assist us with who Phil Taylor was? Was he a
Phil
lawyer?
Taylor, I think he was a legal executive. He worked in the criminal law team.
Does that mean that there's somebody who is not necessarily...
I'm not sure whether he was like the paralegal.
Does it sound a bit like a paralegal,
Yeah,
something like that?
Yeah.
Yes. He says as follows: Steve, the file has gone dead since Jarnell did the attendance note on the 15th of July 2010. I've written to ask the defence if they intend to serve an expert's report, but I've not mentioned the Misra case to them. They can find that out for themselves. What was your understanding of the duties of cross-disclosure? So the duty to disclose information from one case in another case.
Well, I would have expected the criminal law division to disclose fully what's going on.
So did you turn around on receiving this letter and said, no, you've got it wrong, it's disclosable?
As far as I recall, the defence team were notified of the Misra case. At some stage...
That wasn't the question that I asked.
At some stage, all I can answer is that at some stage you were informed about the Misra case.
At some
whether
stage.
it's through me, sort of going back to them or whatever.
Did that form of words that was used by somebody from the criminal law team, that they haven't mentioned the Misra case, they can find that out for themselves, did that cause you any concern?
Well, it's not very good, is it, at all? You know, it's like sort of saying, throwing something away, go and find it for yourself. It's not what I would expect from a set of lawyers
Yes.
to
I mean,
behave.
this particular individual wasn't necessarily a
No,
lawyer.
but he was part of the division and acting for a lawyer from the criminal law division.
Did that cause you to send an immediate memo back saying you've got it wrong?
As I say, I can't, you know, we were talking some 13 years ago now. But as I say, I know that it did come up and the defence team were informed of the Misra case, but I don't know when they were told.
And do you think disclosure was made, full disclosure of expert reports in that case, for example?
Yeah, because Miss McDonald, she put her own, I think it was Charles McLaughlin, they put their own defence expert in.
They put their own expert in that particular case?
Yeah, yes.
But from Seema Misra's case, do you know what was disclosed?
I don't.
No. If we look at poll 00169419, this is a month earlier, a month before that email. We have an email from John Longman to yourself, and it includes some documents from the Misra case, including the final technical expert's report, and it's that document that I would like to take you to. That can be found at poll 00169420. Thank you. Could we please look at page 17, which are the conclusions in the expert report that was obtained by Seema Misra? Thank you very much. Mr. McLachlan says as follows: it is evident that trial balances and period balances showed a continuous pattern of discrepancies throughout the period for which transactions were provided. It appears that no action was taken by the Post Office to investigate these discrepancies or to ensure that Ms. Misra was competent to prevent them from arising. Instead, Misra removed an employee under suspicion of theft and implemented independent stock units for either counter. Neither action appears to have resolved the issue. If we look at 3.3, he says as follows. He says, the Horizon system has had problems in the past, as acknowledged by Mr. Jenkins, that's Gareth Jenkins from Fujitsu, in relation to Calendar Square. Unfortunately, the Post Office has not provided us with the opportunity to independently assess the possible impact on West Byfleet, nor have they provided a list of known defects in Horizon. The traveller's check problem is an illustration of the known defects we independently identified, but Jenkins confirmed that Fujitsu maintain a full list, which has not been released. The Horizon system is a component of the full post office operating environment. Other elements of this environment can result in changes to the cash balances recorded at the branch. Both transaction corrections and remittances will act in this way. Jenkins was unable to provide any opinion as to the integrity of these systems, and I was provided with no opportunity to investigate them. The Post Office has provided no evidence as to the integrity of these systems and the processes used to manage them. So this is a report that you received that contains quite clear criticisms of the Horizon system. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
Yes. And from your evidence where we began today about not knowing about bugs, errors or defects in the system, it does seem that you received at least a defence expert report that did identify those kinds of issues with Horizon.
People have said about bugs, errors, and defects, but if you ask me what bug was there or what error or what defect, I couldn't tell you. And that's why I say I don't know of any bugs, errors or defects. People are quoting bugs, errors and defects, but nobody has said this particular bug, error or defect. That's what I'm saying. Nobody's ever come or cascaded it down to say what particular bug, error or defect was in the system.
But this kind of information presumably is pretty pertinent to the case of Miss McDonald that you are charged with.
And it would be passed to the prosecution, the criminal law team.
Why do you say it was passed to, you say would be, I think, you didn't say was.
Well, what was?
How do you know
Sorry,
that?
my terminology again. Well, they will have sort of had it because of the nature of coming out. John Longman has sent that to us for information, and it would have been passed. The criminal law team would have been there at the time for the case.
When you say criminal law team, who do you mean? Do you mean the post office?
The post office solicitors.
So Mr. Singh, for example.
Well, at the time, it probably Mr. Singh come more on board in 2012 when the split from Royal Mail, when Royal Mail Group become defunct and Royal Mail Letters were becoming independent as a private company. That's when Mr. Singh was attached to the Post Office Limited. Before that, there was a number of lawyers in London and in the criminal law division.
So somebody in the criminal law division would have been aware of this, and what your expectation was that they would be responsible for disclosing that in another case.
That's correct, yes.
And that wasn't something that you needed to apply your own mind to.
As I said, all information I will have had will be sent down to our criminal law team, and they make the actual disclosure to the defence.
Did you expect the criminal law team themselves to take information from one of their cases and disclose it in another one of their cases?
I would expect to with something like this. Anything that's relevant to something else, would expect the criminal law team as lawyers to let other people know.
When you were signing the disclosure statements of the schedule of unused material, schedule of used material, schedule of sensitive material, did you cast your mind to that issue as to whether there was information that didn't appear on your schedule but that was held in relation to another case?
I can't say I did.
And do you reflect on that at all?
I can't say, as I say, I can't say I did. I would have, looked for the criminal law team to do it. If I'd put anything on, it would have been filled in properly. If I haven't have filled it in properly, I would have expected the lawyers to come back to me to say if I've filled the form in incorrectly.
Can you not see a problem with signing a disclosure statement or a schedule of disclosure and at the same time assuming that there is other information not listed on there that was going to be disclosed to a party?
Of course, there's always issues if something is not told. But as I said, my understanding at the time, I had disclosed everything that was available to me, to them.
Do you not see a problem, though, in you creating a schedule of material that doesn't include material that you think, for some reason, is going to be disclosed by somebody else?
All the information I had in that file was sent to the criminal law team.
But this wasn't in that file, was it? This was in another case.
And it was held by the criminal law team, so I would expect them to disclose it.
So were they the disclosure officers in the case?
Well, Ultimately, they are the disclosure officers, because if they ask me to do any further work, it would be put in a statement to be sent to them, and they would disclose it to the defence. I did not disclose anything directly to the defence.
But you're signing schedules of material purporting to be the disclosure officer. Are you saying that you nevertheless assumed that there was some other disclosure officer?
That's the process the post office put in for the file. All my paperwork would be put there, the unused, the exhibits would be signed off in the committal file and sent to the criminal law team, who would then disclose everything to the defence.
Can you see a problem with the assumptions that are being made here?
Of course, there's always problems if too many people aren't involved, or somebody they think somebody else may have done it. But I would have expected the criminal law team to be the full disclosure officers.
Saying that there's always problems, I mean, you're not troubled by that in the context of a criminal prosecution where somebody could go to prison?
As I said, each inquiry is dealt on its own merits, and what I had would be sent to the criminal law team.
But do you not reflect on it and say, I'm producing a schedule for criminal proceedings where somebody could go to prison, and I'm not including all the material on that schedule?
I have produced a schedule of all the relevant information I had to hand concerning that inquiry.
But you're saying that there was other material outside of that schedule that you assumed was disclosed?
No, you said to me there was other material, and I said the criminal law team would have a copy of that, and if it had to be disclosed, I would have expected them to do it.
So if we look at the disclosure schedule in this particular case that was signed by you, do you think we will find this particular report?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No, because I may have done, but I don't think so.
Okay.
But isn't that the problem, Mr. Bradshaw? I think, forget about the technicalities of it. The whole idea of having a disclosure statement signed by someone is to make that person responsible for its contents. Yeah?
Correct, sir.
Right.
But as I
Now,
say,
invariably, as I understand it, the chief investigating officer becomes the disclosure officer. And for the moment, let's assume that's fine. Okay? So the chief investigating officer has the responsibility for ensuring that all that should be disclosed in that statement is disclosed, because he or she is putting a name at the bottom.
correct.
So at the very least, before you put your name to the bottom, if you are going to assume that Mr. X, a lawyer in the criminal law department, is going to provide some documentation to the defense, should you not liaise with him to ensure that that is done?
I understand what you're saying, and what I've said is that all the information I had to hand was sent to the lawyers.
Well,
I
putting it
agree with you.
simply,
I agree with you.
you've agreed with Mr. Blake that it was correct for the information in the Misra case to be disclosed in subsequent cases because it was potentially helpful to the defense. Therefore, in a case where the disclosure officer was going to sign the disclosure form, should he or she not ensure before the form is signed that the information in the Misra case is there and ready for disclosure?
Ultimately, yes.
Right,
You know,
thanks.
Thank you.
Great.
Just two more documents before we take our mid-morning break. Can we look at poll 000996989, please? We're sticking with the case of McDonald. This is a statement that Ms. McDonald made to Second Sight in 2013, so after her case. Could we please look at page 4? She says as follows. She says, shortly after I had been audited and my post office was taken away from me, I read an article in a magazine which highlighted other people who had suffered or were about to suffer the same hell I was going through. I then got in touch with the writer of the article, who then put me in touch with the Justice for Sub-Postmasters Alliance. This was a very big surprise to me, as I was led to believe by the investigator for the Post Office, Steve Bradshaw, that I was the only one in this position, and this has never happened before. Steve Bradshaw is a liar, and he knew the whole time, as I'm friends with another person he had prosecuted that was a member of the Justice for Sub-Postmasters Alliance. It is just unbelievable how I was going to feel like I was the only one, and it made me isolated and paranoid about what was going on with the whole situation. Had you mentioned the Seema Misra case, Miss McDonald might have realised that she wasn't the only one.
I've never said that to her. That's incorrect, that statement.
Well, we'll look at that, because we've seen, that can come down, thank you. We've seen Lisa Brennan this morning being told in her interview that nobody else is making mistakes, haven't we?
I've explained that in that particular branch, she was the only person in that branch that was having that particular issue.
We've seen the letter from the lawyer at the Post Office taking a conscious decision not to tell Miss McDonald about Seema Misra's case. You remember that document, don't you?
That's right, and that's after the interview.
Yes. So Ms McDonald's complaint there that she was told that she was the only one, that rings true, doesn't it?
It doesn't. I have never said that to her, that she is the only one.
Wouldn't that be consistent, though, with not raising Seema Misra's case?
No, on the context of the interview on the time, I have not said to Miss McDonald that she was the only one. And also with that, I don't know who she's friends with, and I did not know whether she was a member of the JFSA.
Did you think that Miss McDonald's case was an important case to win?
No, it's a case. It's a case that has to put whether it's, each case is treated on its own merit.
So this one is just like any other case?
All I do is interview, gather the information, send the file off. And
treat everybody fairly and equally?
As far as I'm concerned, I do, yes.
Can we please look at poll 001-65946, please? This is, I think, a self-appraisal form for 2010-2011. Is that right?
That's correct, yes.
Yes. If we scroll over to the next page, we have at the bottom of that page, your position, I own performance, and it says as follows: I take ownership of the objectives. I agree for myself and my team that will help to deliver the business goals. I regularly discuss my team's progress against their objectives. I ensure that business goals and current team performance are highly visible to my whole team. I address poor performance and recognise achievement. Could we scroll down to the bottom of that page, please? It's number 5. On the 5th of July 2010 at Preston Crown Court, the offender pleaded guilty to false accounting but would not accept theft. I challenged the recommendations of the barrister and persuaded him that a trial would be necessary, as the reason given by the defendant, Horizon Integrity, would have a wider impact on the business if a trial did not go ahead. I also advised that a new trial date should be fixed, as there are current issues ongoing regarding the Horizon system. He agreed with me, and consequently the judge accepted these points and fixed a new trial date. I mean, it seems, certainly from your own feedback, from your own appraisal, that you saw it as in some way career boosting to press on with that Miss McDonald's case because of problems with the Horizon system becoming, having a wider impact on the business. Do you not accept that?
The issue would have been discussed with the prosecution barrister, and as you're probably well aware, when you're filling in one-to-ones sort of thing, there's always a flamboyant way of putting the words across.
I challenged the recommendations of the barrister and persuaded him that a trial would be necessary, as the reasons given by the defendant, Horizon Integrity, would have a wider impact on the business if a trial did not go ahead. Are you saying that you're saying you had more of a role in things than you actually did?
No, not at all. As I said, that's a flamboyant way of explaining what had gone on the day.
But why would the barrister be concerned about the wider impact on the business, though?
I don't know. It will have been discussed with the prosecution barrister. And again, everything of that inquiry has to be taken into context. When it's sort of going, it's not just one little piece of it, it's a full inquiry of how the money possibly went missing, etc. And they had their defence expert, it was sort of put in, prosecution spoke to defence barrister at the second time.
Is it right or wrong to say that you were concerned that that case would have a wider impact on the business of the post office?
It's wrong, but as I say, it's a flamboyant way of explaining what had gone on the day in the court.
So when you say it's wrong, what do you mean? Was that a thought that was in your mind during this case?
The wider impact is sort of, it was, at the time, it wasn't proven, as far as I recall, 100% that Horizon was so faulty.
And your concern in this particular case was that if you lost the case, that would damage the reputation of Horizon.
The damage would always come because, once one part is gone, and as I say, you look at the shortfall was found by a business development manager, the audit was done following. They declared the amount of cash that had done the night before. When the business development manager went, there was only 17,000 in there. So you need the full case to be able to judge it properly.
And you, playing the role that you did, managed to persuade a barrister that a trial would be necessary because of the impact on the business.
As I said, the way it's written is completely wrong. I wouldn't write it like that now, but it's a self-appraisal for the way the business wanted things doing.
So was it true or was it not true?
There's probably truth in it, but not maybe to the extent of what it is.
We've heard from some evidence about bonuses being paid in relation to successful prosecutions. Are you aware of anything along those lines?
Bonuses have always been paid along Royal Mail Group, Post Office, Royal Mail. Bonuses have always been there.
And would positive feedback relating to something like this, might that impact on bonuses?
Well, it impact depending on what score they want to give you, whether you're a 1, 2 or 3 or 4 or whatever numbers they go to.
And does your success in a criminal case impact on the amount that you're paid?
No, not at all.
Does the number of cases that you successfully...
Not at all. I'm paid whether one case is done, 1,000 cases or no cases.
Your standard pay, yes, but in terms of a bonus, you are, I think you've accepted, paid a bonus depending on how well you do.
A bonus becomes part of your pay, what's agreed by the business.
Yes.
And you don't get any extra bonus because of this. It's all how well or not well you do your job is how your bonus is given.
And if you're considered to have, for example, protected the business, prevented the wider impact on the business, do you think that might lead to a bonus?
It may do and it may not do, depending on who looks at the forms and the put in.
Thank you. So that might be an appropriate moment to take our mid-morning break.
We restart.
If we restart at 10, let's say 10 to 12.
10 to 12.
We have quite a lot to get through.
Let's have a break.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Blake. There may be a few latecomers, but we won't wait for them.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to move on to the case study of Caim Isach. Can we please go back to the Court of Appeal judgment? That's Poll 00113278. And it's page 49. This is another case where the Court of Appeal quashed the conviction. Am I right to say that you were the lead investigator, Mr. Isach?
Correct, yes.
I'll just read some of the Court of Appeal judgment. They say that on the 7th of March 2013, Mr. Isach changed his plea to guilty to the theft of £17,000. On the 22nd of April 2013, he was sentenced to 54 weeks imprisonment. The defence challenge to the Horizon system was clear from a very early stage in the proceedings. Mr. Ishak's solicitor had informed the Post Office of the issue and of the defence's intention to instruct an expert at an earlier magistrates' court hearing on the 25th of July 2012. A defence statement of the 29th of August 2012 repeated the defence challenge to Horizon and made a series of disclosure requests targeted at the Horizon system. Mr. Ishak denied theft but admitted altering items on Horizon out of necessity in order to reconcile the amounts and due to the system malfunctioning. The defence repeatedly sought disclosure in relation to Horizon and instructed an accountancy expert to analyse the accounts. The Post Office produced evidence to demonstrate the integrity of Horizon and relied in particular upon the involvement of Mr. Jenkins, who provided witness statements and contributed to a joint expert report. In a served witness statement, Mr. Jenkins defended the integrity of the Horizon system. On the 5th of February 2013, the defence made a formal application to a judge for further disclosure on Horizon. The application was refused. The defence served an addendum defence statement which alleged Horizon malfunction and set out reports of technical faults which Mr. Isach had made to the Horizon Help Desk. He had also made reports to the National Business Support Centre about shortfalls and discrepancies. The Post Office accepts that this was an unexplained shortfall case and that evidence from Horizon was essential to Mr. Ishak's case. The Fujitsu audit data for the indictment period was provided to the defence on the 26th of October 2012. It's unclear what, if any, analysis was performed with it. There was no examination of that data for bugs, errors or defects or for evidence of theft. It appears there was no evidence to corroborate the Horizon evidence. The fact that Mr. Jenkins provided witness statements in itself suggests that the Post Office did not disclose the full and accurate position regarding the reliability of Horizon. There was no proof of an actual loss as opposed to a Horizon-generated shortage. The Post Office concedes only that Mr. Ishak's prosecution was unfair, but we are bound to conclude that his prosecution was an affront to justice. Can we please return to your witness statement? That's WITN 044500100 at page 9. Thank you. If we look at page 9, that's where you address the case of Isach. And we can see at the bottom there, we have at footnote 3 a large number of documents that were provided to you in relation to his case. Do you recall that?
I've seen that, yes. And,
And if we scroll down, we have the rest of your evidence on his case. Can we please look at Poll 0046224, please? This is the investigation report. Thank you. Is this a document that you drafted?
correct.
Yes. That's dated the 13th of May of 2011. It's your investigation report. And I'd like to begin on page 6, please. Thank you. If we scroll down, there's a section on business and procedural weaknesses. And you say there, due to the circumstances given in explanation of the audit shortage, at this moment in time, I can see no failures in security supervision, procedures, or product integrity that should be brought to the attention of the contract manager. Is it possible to bring on screen side by side your witness statement that we've just taken you to? Page 14 of that witness statement, please. So on the left-hand side, if we could go to page 14, you'll recall that that is the page that addresses the general questions that were put to you in your request for evidence to the inquiry. And you say there, for example, I don't know what technical issues were investigated by the Post Office. I can't recall, if any, what information I received concerning bugs, errors and defects in the Horizon system. We heard this morning that you were aware of those magazine articles in 2010, and there was an email correspondence from the same year where there was discussion about a number of challenges to Horizon integrity. What investigation had you carried out in relation to product integrity?
It's when the product came out, you would see it in this particular case. It was a case of sheets of stamps were being reversed out the system, which outweighed what was being sold.
But you've said here in your investigation report that you can't see any failures in product integrity. What investigations you carried out into product integrity to satisfy yourself?
Well, whatever the product was, whether that would show up anything wrong with it. You know, that's all I can say, is that you would look at each one at the time. I didn't go in and look at each individual product, because that's another member of another team within the Post Office.
But you were aware at this particular time of significant allegations against the integrity of the Horizon system, weren't you?
But with this particular inquiry, it didn't appear to be anything to do with Horizon, because he was reversing out stamps that created the surplus.
But at this particular time, do you accept that you had significant knowledge of allegations about the integrity of the Horizon system?
There was knowledge at the time that people were stating that there was issues with Horizon.
And it was your knowledge at that time?
People had told us, so yeah, I guess I probably will have known.
I mean, you say probably would have known. Let's have a look at UKGI 000155101. This is another case around a similar time, 2nd of March 2011. This is the case of Damien Owen. Was that a case that you were also the investigating officer?
No, not at all.
Were you involved? You weren't involved in that case?
Not at all.
You didn't see this defence statement if we scroll down?
Not at all.
No knowledge of that?
Not Damien Peter Owen, no.
No. Okay. Let's return to Mr. Isach's case then. Can we look at poll 000582254, please? We have the defence statement. We've just seen a defence statement in Mr. Owen's case. Let's look at the defence statement in Mr. Isach's case. This is August 2012. Can we please turn over the page? This is a document that you would have seen at the time, isn't it?
Yes.
Thank you. If we scroll down, this is a document that is produced to set out the nature of the defendant's case. And if we look at paragraph 7, that's over the page, please. He states as follows: the nature of the defence in relation to this allegation is there was no appropriation of monies. The Post Office Horizon software/hardware system had in the past on numerous occasions malfunctioned, causing difficulties in reconciling sales, receipt and stock figures. The defendant had reported the same to the Post Office helpline, seeking assistance, but little or no successful assistance was afforded to him despite the said requests. 2, the defendant had of necessity to make certain adjustments by way of reversals on the Horizon system so as to ensure the sales, receipt and stock figures reconciled. If we carry on, please, over the page, we have a number of disclosure requests that were made by the defence in Mr. Isach's case. If we scroll down a little more, we can see at 11.2, for example, they request all material to the knowledge of the prosecution in existence, whether in the hands of the prosecution or third parties, that reasonably supports or is reasonably capable of supporting the contention that the Post Office Horizon software/hardware system has proved to be unreliable and or inaccurate and or unstable and or susceptible to malfunction, and or otherwise prone to the production of erroneous results. Little 4, the full results, whether provisional or final, of all internal and or external investigations and or inquiries and or reviews, whether instigated by the Post Office or any other body, into the correct functioning of the Post Office hardware/software system. And over the page, any internal memoranda and or guidance notes and or material dealing with the correct or incorrect functioning of the Post Office Horizon hardware/software system. And this is a case that you were the investigating officer.
Correct.
Yes. Can we please look at poll 00119430, please? An email from September 2012 from Martin Smith. He's a lawyer at Cartwright King. Is that correct? Do you recall? If we scroll down, we can see his sign-off.
It's come from Cartwright King.
Yes. Thank you. And this is an email sent, you're included on the distribution list. Who was Sarah Porter, do you recall?
I'm not sure whether she's somebody that actually works in Cartwright King or it's somebody else. I don't really recall that name.
He says, "Good morning, Sarah. Please find attached copies of a letter from the defendant's solicitors and the defence case statement." That's the document that we've just been looking at. The defence are clearly aware of the current Horizon issues and are on a fishing expedition. This, in my view, is a red herring. The stamp sales, which had been reversed, thereby increasing the stock and lowering the amount of money needed to achieve a balance, were clearly not there at the time of the audit. So he has described it as a fishing expedition. What's your understanding of a fishing expedition?
Can I just go back to I think Sarah Porter may well be the agents given. It's either she would have worked for Cartwright King or they're agents from the Yorkshire area, to look after that case. It's only a possibility, but I think that's where it may be.
Thank you very much.
Fishing expedition is just throwing anything around to see what comes out from it.
We've seen a number of requests made in that defence statement for disclosure. Did you seek and obtain the information that was sought?
If Cartwright King, either via Sarah Porter, if it's from our prosecution agents, if Cartwright King didn't do it, if Cartwright King have asked me for anything, I will have done whatever they requested.
You would have done whatever they requested.
Yeah,
I mean, we spoke earlier about, for example, reliance on the Post Office's own legal team to cross-disclose from other cases. Here we have Cartwright King, so an external firm, perhaps a lawyer who doesn't have sight of every case, and you have also, as you said, Sarah Porter, who's potentially yet another external firm. Who was best placed out of all of you?
Cartwright King took over from John L. Singh. Cartwright King become the Post Office lawyers. So as the investigation officer, whatever information they required, they would have asked. And I would have provided, if possible, the information back to them that they would have saved back towards the defence.
So in terms of your assumption that somebody would have been disclosing additional documents that weren't on your schedules, what do we assume now in relation to Cartwright King, that they are then responsible for this further material?
Cartwright King would have taken it over as the people who would deal with the defence solicitors.
What about the defence report in the Seema Misra case, for example, and other complaints that we've seen, even those 2010 magazine articles that you were sent? Did they form your disclosure in this case?
As I said, as I explained earlier, I will have disclosed everything I had pertaining to whatever case, whether it be Mr. Isach's or whatever, to our lawyers, and I would expect them as the people dealing directly, because I wouldn't deal direct with any defence solicitors.
Who do you think was responsible for disclosure?
I would say our lawyers acting on behalf of the Post Office.
And what do you think your duties were in relation to disclosure?
To let our lawyers know everything that I've possibly got.
So your duty is to provide them with what you have in a specific case, but not in relation to your broader knowledge?
I would say so, yes.
And then you saw it as their duty to make disclosure in relation to the broader context?
That's correct, yes.
Can we please look at poll 00056596, please? This is at an earlier stage in the case. This is a memo from Maureen Moores in the National Security Team at the Post Office. And it's about this particular case, Mr. Isach. And it's sent to you.
That's right, yeah. Maureen Moores was part of the casework team. She was a postal officer in the casework team.
So she was a caseworker, you were the investigator.
Yeah.
And she gives an opinion as to sufficiency of
Not,
evidence, or
not at all. All she's basically done is forwarded on that's being addressed from legal services, because this is round about the time of the crossover between the criminal law team, i.e. John L. Singh, and Cartwright King taking over completely.
yes.
So the legal services, that's where they were based as Royal Mail Group. When the split come, lawyers stayed with Royal Mail letters. John
Yes.
L. Singh become post office, and they would then send it to the casework team, and in this case, Maureen, and Maureen would forward that on so it would be attached into the file.
So for whose attention was this particular document?
I think it's to let the security team know, and it's forwarded on to me, and I would put in.
So as the investigating officer, is this, if we scroll up, sorry, it's a memo, so it's not a letter.
No.
Is this effectively a memo for your attention?
Yeah.
Yes. Could we scroll over the page, please? And we can see at the very bottom, it's from Rob Wilson, who is at that stage head of the criminal law team.
That's correct.
And if we look at the very top of the current page we're on, he says as follows: you will be aware of the provisions of the Criminal Procedure and Investigation Act 1996 concerning disclosure. Please confirm whether there is any material which might reasonably be considered capable of undermining the prosecution case or assisting the defence case and which has not already been disclosed. Please also let me have various forms. So that is a test that you were aware of.
That's right. They're all the forms for the committal. For the committal.
Yes. So that is a test that is being repeated to you by the head of the criminal law team.
That's right.
Do you still say that it was the responsibility of Cartwright King to ensure appropriate disclosure and not your responsibility?
Cartwright King for the, if you're talking about the misery part, for Cartwright King, now I will have disclosed everything that I had pertaining to that case. Anything above and beyond it, I would expect the lawyers to disclose it to the defence.
I mean, there's no caveat in that paragraph, though, is there? There's nothing that says in that paragraph, in the particular circumstances of this particular case.
No, and I wouldn't expect it to be any sort of thing. It's any caveat to be put in for there. As I said, all internal work that I had, I would disclose to our lawyers. All
internal work that related to this particular case?
Yeah.
And where did you get the impression from that that's all you needed to do?
That's the way I've been told from the business from when I started.
Told by who?
The way it's come down from when I started, and from the training school to whoever the sort of, like Mr. Gardner at the beginning, when you first done them. And the lawyers. The lawyers haven't said we've done anything incorrect.
So was it part of your training that you only needed to disclose matters relating to a particular case and not be concerned with wider issues?
As far as I recollect, yes, that's what it was.
Do you have any reflections on the fishing expedition comment? Do you still see it as a fishing expedition in this particular case?
As I said, people sometimes send emails as if they're having a telephone conversation, and it's probably not the correct word to use, fishing. But at the time, it's probably a prevalent way people would speak to one another.
But do you think that wider disclosure about problems with the Horizon system experienced by other sub-postmasters is not a reasonable thing to need to disclose?
If there was issues there and the lawyers knew about it, they should disclose it.
You knew about it?
The lawyers, as I said, I expect the lawyers to do that, not me. I've disclosed all relevant work I had pertaining to whatever case, and the lawyers would deal with the defence lawyers.
Can we please look at poll 000596552? We're in the 6th of February now. We have an email from Martin Smith of Cartwright King to yourself. I'm going to just read from this email. It says the defence were unable to persuade the judge to order any further disclosure. The defendant's solicitor told me that the defendant still operated the store in which the post office is situated. The defendant had instructed them that both subsequent sub-postmasters had told him that they had experienced problems with the Horizon system. Although you had said in your final statement that during the subsequent transfer of cash and stock after Mr. Isach's suspension in February 2011, no problems or discrepancies had been reported, the defence may well suggest that this does not necessarily mean that no problems were encountered by the subsequent sub-postmasters. I think it would be sensible to obtain statements from both subsequent sub-postmasters confirming that they experienced no problems with the Horizon system, etc. Just looking at the words in speech marks that were in a statement that you had produced for that particular case. So you had said in a statement, during the subsequent transfer of cash and stock after Mr. Isach's suspension, no problems or discrepancies have been reported. What investigations at that stage, so prior to speaking to the sub-postmasters, had you conducted in relation to problems post-dating Mr. Isach?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
You subsequently, and we'll see, took a statement from a sub-postmaster that followed from Mr. Isach's suspension. You included in a witness statement a statement to the effect that no problems or discrepancies have been reported. Now, are we to read into the fact that you've said have been reported means that in order to make that statement, all you looked at was whether a problem or discrepancy had been reported?
A statement was taken from the interim postmaster who was he had another one in West Yorkshire in Dewsbury, and he stated in his statement that the equipment was exactly the same, he hadn't changed anything, and he had no issues whatsoever.
We will come to look at that, but this particular email is telling you that we would like to approach the sub-postmasters to take a statement from them. So this predates that statement.
Well, that's when he's asking me to go down and take the statements.
Absolutely, but by that stage you had already said in a witness statement that no problems or discrepancies have been reported subsequent to Mr. Isach. And my question to you is, how did you form that conclusion?
Well, again, I can't say 100%, but my knowledge would have been at the time that I would not have found any issues that he's reported any problems with the Horizon.
Is that an assumption?
No. That again, without having the case file, and whether the call logs are being obtained from both the NBSC and Horizon, but there was nothing at the time to indicate any issues from Mr. Isach.
You said no problems or discrepancies have been reported, and really what I'm asking you is, are we to read that very carefully, that you've referred to being reported, because in fact you weren't aware whether there were in fact any problems?
Well, they're not reported. To me, there's no issue.
So you were relying on, for example, call logs or something along those lines?
Yeah.
Rather than an investigation of the system?
Yeah, if you got it, because I have no reason to investigate the system.
Can we please look at POL 00059629? And we're going to start at page 14. This is the statement that is referred to there. And it's a statement from you, and it says, the call logs for the period of 8th of July 2010 to 11th of February 2011 were requested from the National Business Support Centre. Those logs have been examined and show that no calls were made by Mr. Isach during that particular period. If we look over the page, please, and we can see the line that I've just taken you to. It's at the bottom of that page. It says, during the subsequent transfer of cash and stock after Mr. Isach's suspension in February 2011, no problems or discrepancies have been reported. So we have a statement that says, I've obtained the call logs from July 2010 to February 2011, and Mr. Isach hadn't reported during that period. And then you have at the bottom that no problems or discrepancies have been reported. by this particular stage, you hadn't in fact spoken to the subsequent sub-postmasters?
No, that will be done in the transfer from the old postmaster to the new postmaster. So in effect is, if you say these £10,000 of cash, the incoming postmaster, Mr. Patel, has agreed these £10,000 of cash, these 10 stamp books, these so many of these, so many of the, he's agreed with everything that's in the office at that time. And so that's what that refers to.
Could we, if we scroll back to the first page, please? I just want to also just ask you about the call logs that were obtained. Sorry, it's page 15, 14. Thank you. Where you say the call logs were requested from the National Business Support Centre, we've heard quite a lot of evidence about the separate Horizon System Help Desk. Was that something that you obtained calls from?
It may well have done, yeah. They normally, initially I thought there was only one, and then that, as you quite rightly say, there was a separate Horizon call, and normally the National Business Support Centre would get them call logs as well for you.
And you'd have to obtain the Horizon System Help Desk calls from Fujitsu.
From Fujitsu, correct.
You said that you thought that there was only the National Business Support Centre.
At the time, yes.
For how long?
It's afterwards. I would either been told by the National Business Support Centre that we don't have the Horizon ones, you would have to go to Fujitsu, or sometimes they have got them on my behalf.
So are you saying that it was as late as 2013 that you found out about the other help desk?
It could all be, yes.
Thank you. Can we please look at poll 0005965? Just in terms of the statement that we've just seen, can you assist us? You said before that Cartwright King sent you a statement to sign. Was that one that we've just looked at? Was that drafted by you, by somebody else?
Drafted by me, that one. That wasn't Cartwright.
That was drafted by you. Thank you. This is a letter from Mr. Isach's solicitors. And if we could scroll down, they've picked up on the particular wording, the careful wording at the end of your witness statement, and they say as follows. Further to the service of the additional evidence, at page 43, Stephen Bradshaw's penultimate sentence states that no problems or discrepancies have been reported since the transfer to a new interim sub-postmaster, since the suspension of Mr. Isach in February 2011. With regards to this, could you please clarify whether further inquiries were made, i.e., as, or I think it maybe has, a full audit been undertaken since February 2011, and if so, what was the outcome of that audit? If no discrepancy has been highlighted from a subsequent audit, then please be on notice that we will require the data to commission our own audit. So they're asking you therefore what further inquiries were made as to the accuracy of the system post Mr. Isach, and whether an audit has taken place. Do you agree with that?
Yes, but I'm not sure whether there was an audit put on by post office, or whether technically what you've got is that each time the interim postmaster, Mr. Patel, every time he balanced, whether it be weekly or the branch trading statements every month, that's actually an audit of what he's got in the branch. And I'm not sure if an independent audit took place.
Mr. Isach is simply his solicitors are simply asking there, could you clarify what further inquiries were made to justify the words that you had included in your witness?
As I explained, the interim postmaster has not reported any issues. He used the same equipment, and he stated, as was put in the statement, that he'd been balancing okay.
And they are effectively trying to test that. They want to test that, and they want to see for themselves evidence of the actual figures being looked at by the post office.
Well, yeah, but the post office would have to put another independent audit on. Now, whether that took place, I'm not sure.
Well, they're only asking a question, aren't they? They're saying, can you clarify whether further inquiries have been made, i.e., has a full audit been undertaken? And
I expect that they will have been answered by Cartwright King, either without from myself or directly by them.
Let's have a look. Poll 000599692, please. This is an email from Martin Smith of Cartwright King to yourself and to Mark Ford. And he says, just to keep you in the loop, please find attached a copy of a letter which we have received from Musa Patels today. That's the letter we've just looked at. Steve is in the process of taking statements from the 2 subsequent sub-postmasters who have not experienced any problems with the Horizon system. They have not had any significant shortages. I do not propose to ask Steve to obtain the data for the period following Isach's removal. Given that there were no problems with the system and no significant shortages, it would not assist the defence or undermine the Crown's case. Were Martin Smith or indeed yourself well placed to tell whether there were any problems with the system after Mr. Isach had been suspended?
As previously explained, the technical issues of the workings of the Horizon system, no, me and Mr. Smith would not be. But based on what they were saying, were there any issues with balancing and the cash and stock that's in the branch at the time? The postmaster that was in place at the time suffered no issues.
So you have the subsequent postmaster who you're taking statements from at this time. You've been asked very clearly by the defence whether an audit has taken place, because front and centre for their defence is the Horizon system and the reliability of the Horizon system. In what sense are we to understand that Mr. Smith has any idea whether obtaining data for that period would have or would not have assisted or undermined the Crown's case?
I think Mr. Smith is going, based on the question, was, that the postmaster in post at the time had balanced each and every week, each and every month, and so I think Mr. Smith has made a decision where that, there is no issues shown, no data would show any loss.
But how would you know that without
because
looking?
the data is only about the transactions. If you got the data, all the data would show what transactions you're taking in, so what receipts you've had and what payments you made. And if he is balancing, everything is balanced out. The left and right is at an equilibrium.
Can you see any issue with relying on what a subsequent postmaster has told you and not investigating whether, in fact, there were any technical
In
issues?
this case, no, because he stated he's balancing okay. He was an experienced postmaster because he had another branch in Dewsbury. So he was stating he had no issues with his balancing.
So you don't think that it was incumbent upon the post office to, in fact, check whether there were or were not bugs, errors or defects affecting Mr. Isach's post office after his termination?
In that particular case with the postmaster, I don't know what you would expect to find, because everything has gone through correctly.
Sorry?
Everything has gone through correctly because he is balanced.
Well, we'll look and see what he says. Let's look at what he says now. Let's look at UKGI 0001491, please. First of all, is this your writing, his writing?
Yeah.
It's your writing, so you took the statement. And can you assist us with how you would go about taking statements, focusing on this particular statement?
I would make the arrangements to go and see Mr. Patel, and then sort of go through and ask him as it goes through the questions to write it in.
And is this verbatim as you spoke to him?
I wouldn't say verbatim to the extent of every word, but it's the what is basically sort of said to him, and then he would read it and check it afterward at the end of it before signing it.
Let's have a look towards the bottom of the page, please. Just returning to your evidence much earlier today, where you said that you signed a statement that Cartwright King had sent you, no questions asked. At this stage, had you had any training or understanding about the duties that relate to the obtaining of statements and how important it was that they were accurate and full and true?
That come from the training. I've been taking statements for a number of years and never been any issues.
He says as follows: I balanced the cash and stock on a weekly basis and produced a branch trading statement at the end of the balancing periods. The weekly balancing and branch trading statement would be done mainly by my son-in-law. So I think his evidence, we can go over the page again, was that his son-in-law mainly did the work, but it was unable to produce, but if he was unable to produce these, either myself or my son would go to the post office to do the balance. During my time as interim sub-postmaster, I did not have any balances that caused me any concern, and when the branch trading statement was produced, I cannot recall making good any shortages above £20. So, first of all, are we to read into that he did have some shortfalls, but they just weren't?
It could, yeah. The way it reads and what he said, he would have been asked whether he had any surpluses or shortages, and he's come up with the figure of round about the £20. He could not recall any shortage that was above the £20 mark.
And are we to read anything into the words "I cannot recall"? I mean, why wouldn't he say I didn't have any shortages above £20?
It's probably the way I've written it.
Yes, because as you said, it's not verbatim. Do you think that those words were yours or his?
He would have been asked. I might have said to him, "Do you recall any shortages?" No, or not above thing, and that's how I've written it. As I said, it's not verbatim saying I don't or I didn't have. What he's saying there is, yeah, he's probably, as you quite rightly said, he's had shortages within the account. However, there's nothing that's caused him any concern because he says it's up to about £20.
And he carries on, during this time I employed 2 members of staff to work behind the counter. Whilst I was the interim sub-postmaster, the Horizon system remained the same. I have never requested any piece of the Horizon kit to be replaced. Now, why is that bit in capitals? I've never requested any piece of the Horizon kit to be replaced.
It's not really in capitals, it's just the way I write it. I've written it.
But it's different to the rest of the writing.
It's just the way I've written it. You could use other, these come, the line above it, which you haven't picked up, is I've got the in capitals. It's just the way I've written the statements. There's nothing untoward. It's just the way that statement is written by me.
Did you see it as an important part of his evidence
Not
to
at
have
all.
said that?
Not at all. It's, as I said, it's the way I've written the statement. Sometimes it's in capitals, sometimes it's the way, the shorter notes.
And was this the sum of the evidence from the subsequent sub-postmaster?
All I was asked to go and get a statement from the postmaster to see whether he had any issues with the system in the post office.
We had read that there were 2 subsequent.
I think Mr. Lacar says it. I think a statement was taken from him as well.
And did it say similar things?
I think so. Without seeing it,
Is this the sum of this statement, though, that in fact the author of the statement didn't generally do the weekly balance and branch trading statement? He can't recall making good any shortages above relatively small ones, and that he hasn't requested any part of the actual physical kit to be replaced. There was no subsequent evidence to this. For example, an investigation, somebody looking at the data during this particular time to see if it was accurate or not.
We had no reason to disbelieve that Mr. Patel hadn't checked the work within the post office.
Can we look at poll 000599729, please? This is a letter to Cartwright King, the 15th of February 2013. This is within a matter of days from the correspondence that we've just seen. And it says as follows. It says, we enclose in duplicate copies of a notice of additional evidence, the statement of Stephen Bradshaw and Abdullah Patel, and an up-to-date page count. There is no further disclosure to be made in this case. So pausing there, it seems as though, in fact, it was only your statement and this statement that we've just seen that was served on Mr. Isach.
The other statement might have been said earlier. I do recall that name, Umar Lacourt.
we will have a look for that additional statement. It then says, we note that your client has said in his defence case statement that the Post Office Horizon software/hardware system had in the past on numerous occasions malfunctioned, causing difficulties in reconciling sales, receipt and stock figures. Please let us have particulars of the numerous malfunctions to which your client has referred. Do you think that that was a sufficient response to the various issues that Mr. Isach had raised with the Horizon system?
As I say, they're the lawyers. They will respond in their way.
That wasn't really the question I was asking.
But they're the lawyers, aren't they? You know, I can't control how they reply to anybody. And in this case, I just read that as they're asking for what particular issues, what the malfunction was. That's how I read that.
As somebody who had, who was the investigating officer, the disclosure officer, who had been reminded of their duties under the Criminal Procedure and Investigations Act, do you think that that was a sufficient response in the particular case to the serious allegations about the Horizon system?
As I say, that's the lawyers answering that, not me.
That's not an answer, though.
But I don't have any control over what they say.
You can have a view on what they say, and what is your view?
Look, my view
as to
on
the
that, I
sufficiency?
don't see anything wrong with it. They're just asking what the malfunction was on any particular occasion.
By 2010, we've established, you were aware of all those computer articles, you're aware of a growing body of allegations about the Horizon system. You were aware of the Seema Misra defence experts report, a whole host of evidence. Do you think that the response in this letter, in Mr. Isach's case, was sufficient?
It seems sufficient because they're asking what the malfunction was. So they're just asking what went wrong on a particular occasion. That's how I read that letter.
Could we keep this letter, please, and can we look at it side by side with poll 0059675? This is the letter you received questioning about whether further inquiries were made and whether a full audit had been undertaken since Mr. Isach had finished at the post office. If we could scroll down on the left-hand side, you can see. Do you think that that letter was sufficiently addressed in this response?
As I say, I'm the small cog in this as the investigation officer. The lawyers would deal directly with the defence lawyers. And it's, is it up to me to sort of say? I don't see anything wrong in what they're replying in the letters.
If we could keep the one on the right-hand side, but on the left-hand side, could we please put up poll 000582554? And it's page 4 of that, please. It's paragraph 11, so if we scroll down, these are all the paragraphs that I took you to about all material to the knowledge of the prosecution that reasonably supports the contention that Horizon software/hardware system has proved to be unreliable, full results of any internal investigations, etc. I mean, looking at that request that was set out in the defence statement, do you think that that answer on the right-hand side is sufficient?
As explained on numerous occasions, I will react on any instructions from the solicitors.
This is the 15th of February on the right-hand side, very shortly before the trial. The trial was 10 days later. Do you think that that final sentence, please let us have particulars of the numerous malfunctions, placing the burden on Mr. Isach to identify the malfunctions, do you think that that was an appropriate approach to take so close to the trial?
As you're well aware, things go straight on up to the trial day. And so, as I say, I will act on any instructions from the solicitors. Cartwright King are asking for any malfunctions. And, whether I don't see anything wrong in that paragraph, as I've said.
You're the disclosure officer. You've received a defence statement requesting quite a lot of material relating to the Horizon system. Very shortly before the trial, the answer is, you're not getting anything else. Please let us know what you say the problems are. Do you see a problem with that?
That's from the lawyers. As I've explained previously, I will disclose all information I have and the Cartwright King in this case, they're the ones who deal directly with these defence solicitors, and if any information is required, I will assist Cartwright King in obtaining the information on their instructions.
One thing that you haven't passed to them is wider knowledge of problems with the Horizon system that has been passed to you over the many years in post, 13 years by that stage.
And as explained before, as far as I was aware, the criminal law team, Cartwright King, are all well aware of this, as you've shown me in previous documents.
Can we please look at poll 000598869? This was an addendum defence statement that was filed in Mr. Isach's case. And he there, if we scroll down, sets out, he responds to the letter requesting further particulars, and he has set out there problems. The Horizon online system would often crash and freeze and would give inaccurate total figures at the end of trading and or balance periods. As a result of these problems, the defendant called the Horizon Help Desk, so this isn't the MBSE, this is the Horizon Help Desk in the region of 8 to 10 times a month on the telephone number, and gives a telephone number. Those calls were made over a period of about 12 months. He then gives a series of references. We scroll down. We scroll down to the bottom of the second page. It says, when a balance and or trading report produced by the system showed there was a shortage of cash, the system would give the defendant an option to make good the discrepancies. If we scroll down. On occasions, the defendant did not accept that he had made an error and requested the issue be dealt with centrally by the post office. On such occasions, he received a letter from Chesterfield. Approximately twice, the defendant called Chesterfield to discuss the discrepancies and shortfalls, and in order to explain the problems he was encountering with the system. No references were provided by Chesterfield staff, but he was assured that the matter would be investigated, and then he gives some further details. Could we please turn to poll 001666405? This is an email from Martin Smith to yourself. He says, please find attached a letter which we have received from Messrs. Musa Patels today enclosing an addendum defence case statement. That's the document that we've just been looking at. I note that the addendum defence case statement sets out the reference numbers of numerous reports which the defendant apparently made. It is the last working day before the trial, and I'm somewhat suspicious that the information was not disclosed at an earlier stage. Steve, could you please go through the addendum defence case statement and make such inquiries as you are able to today? Just pausing there, we saw the letter which asked for further information. The addendum defence case statement seems to have been submitted in response to that letter. Were you suspicious about the detail that was provided in that defence statement?
Sorry, can you just clarify that? I'm not quite sure.
Yes. We've seen an additional addendum defence statement giving more detail. Were you, as Mr. Smith seems to have been, suspicious about the production of that defence statement?
Well, in the addendum, these ones there where the Horizon reference numbers are,
Yes.
the sort of thing, so that possibly indicates that the Horizon call logs were obtained from Fujitsu, hence why you've got the reference numbers and whatever.
Sorry, we'll get to the investigation into the information that he gave.
And from that statement, again, that it's an instruction, and I'm dealing with whatever he wishes me to sort of go on. And again, that's the decision he's made about whether the unsexual challenge. I can't say what type of conversation went on with Mr. Smith regarding whether they should tell or shouldn't tell.
Did you have any suspicions about the information that was provided?
No.
No.
I would look at the information that's received.
If we scroll down in this email, he says as follows. He says, I have no intention of providing details of previous cases in which there has been an unsuccessful challenge to Horizon. That information does not undermine the Crown's case or assist the defence. Now, your evidence throughout today has been that you relied on Cartwright King to disclose that information.
That's right.
Here you're being told by Cartwright King that they're not going to be providing that information. Did you have any concerns about the approach that they were taking?
At the time, probably not. You know, as I say, I can't really answer because I don't know what type of conversation went on at that time with Cartwright King over that.
Well, do you recall any conversation in which that was challenged?
It's 10 plus years ago.
Do you really think that you did have a conversation with Cartwright King?
I had numerous conversations with Cartwright King over the years. So whether that was part of one of them, it's 10 years. I can't honestly say, yes, I spoke to them about Mr. Isach or I spoke to them about this. Unfortunately, that's just a passing of time with that one.
So your evidence is you can't remember?
And in this particular, yeah, I can't remember whether any conversation took place regarding that. I'm not saying it didn't, but on the same token, I can't say it did.
Do you think it's likely that if you had received this and had an objection to their approach to disclosure, you might have written it down?
Something may well have been said, yeah, regarding it.
Do you think it was?
As I say, I can't categorically say it did or it didn't. You know, it's likely to have taken place. If you've got an unsuccessful challenge and say, no, I'm not going to deal with it, then the passing of the conversation would have been, well, why not? Or what? So they're making the choices as the lawyers.
Did you not see, as disclosure officer, the duty falling to you to make the...
As I say, I disclose everything, what I've got from the post office side of the investigation. Everything else after that for disclosure is done by Cartwright King to the defence.
Could we please look at poll 000462880? Here we have you chasing up some of the references. If we could look at page 3, please. These are chasing up some of those references that are in Mr. Isach's defence statement. The bottom email is from you. Sorry, it's from you, and it says, sorry, can we go, is that the final page? Can we go over the page? I think there's one more page. Thank you. Please see below from Steve Bradshaw, that's forwarding your email. Fujitsu advised that a request for the HSD call logs for the branch need to go via our security team into theirs. So it needs to be a conversation between yourselves and Penny Thomas and Andy Dunks. Would it be possible for you to progress this and have the log sent to Steve Bradshaw? And if we go to the page before, we have an email from you that says as follows. I've been speaking with Julie, who tells me that NBSC call logs with the letter H and Fujitsu call logs begin with the letter A. Sorry to be a pain, but can you identify the following reference numbers and what problems they relate to? And if we go to the first page, we see there an email from the post office service desk saying that they've checked, they've had problems locating those particular references. And the email continues, the only remaining alternative is to run all incidents logged at the NBSC for each month of the date ranges given in the hope that they're listed somewhere. I've been processing your request since 2 o'clock. This email's timed at 4:14, so for 2 hours, 16 minutes this afternoon, and have yet to successfully extract a monthly report due to the volume of calls. So there is obviously a very high number of calls being made to the NBSC during this period. Without further clarification of branch code or the correct dates, this request becomes considerably more complex. So it seems as though the post office themselves are not having much luck in finding these calls. Is that a fair summary? Well,
it indicates that I've done on behalf of what the defence requested and what Martin Smith has instructed me to do, so that I've told me, and then they're struggling because the numbers aren't correct.
And that further work is complicated or complex, as they've described?
Yes, and that would be trying to associate the numbers. If the number's incorrect, you're trying to balance the number out of when with the dates and the number into the call centre.
And do you remember any conversation that you had with the Horizon Help Desk team?
Normally, everything for Horizon always went through the security team, the casework team. We would not call directly.
Could we please have a look at poll 000598661? This is the same day, and it's comments received from Mr. Jenkins on the addendum defence statement. Do you recall Mr. Jenkins's involvement in this?
I know Mr. Jenkins, yeah, I know of him.
Did you have direct contact with Mr. Jenkins?
I don't recall any direct contact. I've met him on a couple of occasions, and I think this was one occasion in Bradford Crown Court when he was listed for witness. But if the most, I've met him about once or twice, and no telephone conversations with him.
He says there, I've been asked to comment on the addendum defence case statement in the case of Mr. Isach. And if we scroll down, we can see his comments. So there's a section there, the Horizon Online system, and this is in the defence statement. It says the Horizon Online system would often crash and freeze and would give inaccurate total figures. And he says as follows, he says, I'm aware that there were some issues in the early days of Horizon Online. However, I don't believe that these impacted the overall accounting at the end of the periods provided recovery was carried out correctly. So that's somewhat caveated. Providing recovery was carried out correctly, it shouldn't have impacted on the figures. He says the migration date was well into the full rollout and the branch was not operating Horizon Online during the pilot. If we scroll over the page, he then addresses all of those reports. And he says as follows, just below. If we could scroll down slightly. He says, I have no easy visibility of these reports. It's possible to retrieve them from the system and examine them, but I'm not aware of them having been provided in evidence. I have certainly not been asked to examine them, but I'm happy to do so. If the details of the reports have not yet been provided, then there is a process to ask for them to be provided by Fujitsu. He says, I'm checking to see if these reports have been retrieved and submitted as evidence. If so, I'll try and get a hold of them. However, as the period of the calls outlined above has little overlap with the period for which detailed transaction logs have been obtained, it's likely there is not much that can be done to tie them together without getting more information. Thank you. Can we now turn to FUJ 00153997, please? And we have an email from Gareth Jenkins to the legal team. And he says, thanks for the update on another case. He says, I've added some comments to the defence case statement addendum, and that's the comments that we've just seen. He says, I've now had confirmation that Fujitsu have not supplied details of any help desk calls to Post Office Limited regarding this branch. Therefore, there's nothing I can easily do to address any specifics. The suggestion there is that the call logs from Fujitsu had not been obtained at this point.
That's a possibility, but I've never seen that email. But I'm not on it.
You yourself didn't have any contact with Fujitsu requesting the call logs. What do you recall you did once you received the defence statement in terms of investigating underlying issues with the Horizon system?
As I've explained, when any defence statement comes, I will act on any instructions from, in this case, Cartwright King, whatever work they want to do.
Total reliance on Cartwright.
On Cartwright King, what they want doing. I wouldn't go off on the tangents to do my own investigation.
We have, as we've seen, the 2009 media articles, SEMA MISRA report, growing cases challenging Horizon. By this time, Second Sight's involvement. Were you not concerned that there was more investigation that should be carried out in
And that
relation
would be done by the relevant people, not me as the individual.
Were you asking anybody to carry out a greater
I
investigation?
would not ask, because again, when the second site and everything come on board, the business as the post office would have instructed people or put people in place to do that, not me as the individual.
But you were the investigator.
That's correct, yes, and as I've explained, I will have passed over everything I had in my possession to the lawyers.
Disclosure is one thing, but you were the investigator. Were you not investigating the Horizon
I would
system?
not go and invest everything the Horizon. I'm not technically gifted to investigate any errors within the any technical issues within the Horizon system. That will be done by other people within the business.
Before we break for lunch, I'd like to take you to the opening note in the Isach case. That's at poll 000598990. Thank you. This is the opening note from counsel for the prosecution in Mr. Isach's case. Could we please look at page 5? Paragraph 19. That being the case, it may be that the defendant will accept responsibility for the transactions, but claim that there is some sort of problem with the Horizon system. If so, he has yet to produce any evidence to demonstrate that is so. The Crown will call evidence from the designer of the system to prove that there is no fault in the system at all. Do you think that that was accurate?
That's their advice. As I said numerous times, you know, as Mr. Isach was asked for, what was the malfunction? That's the advice from the lawyers, and I am assuming that the last bit, the Crown would call evidence from the designer, and they're referring to Mr. Jenkins.
And he would say that there's no fault in the system at all?
That's their opinion.
We're now in 2013. You've had all those years of complaints about Horizon, all that evidence put before you relating to problems with Horizon. And were you in court hearing the opening?
I was in court for that because it was called as a witness.
And you heard the words being said that there is the claim is that there's some sort of problem with the Horizon system. If so, he's yet to produce any evidence to demonstrate that is so. Were you not a bit worried at that stage?
I was at court on the day. I was not in the actual court when the trial begins because I was a witness, so I would be outside.
But knowing that that was how the prosecution were putting their case, were you not a bit nervous?
As I said, I was outside in court waiting to be called as a witness.
Paragraph 20, the defendant was suspended from his duties at the Birkenshaw Post Office and a new sub-postmaster was introduced in his place, Abdullah Patel. For more than a year, he has run the post office, and in that time there have been no problems reported at all. No unexplained Horizon malfunctions, no stock discrepancies requiring huge reversals, no mysterious disappearances of cash. I think we did read in Mr. Patel's statement that at least there was some discrepancies, wasn't there?
In Mr. Patel's words, they were minor, and I think most postmasters would say they have minor discrepancies.
Yes. Do you think that the summary of the position that's being put in these paragraphs is a fair summary? Having, for example, not investigated the underlying issues with the Horizon system?
As I said, that Cartwright King, that's their advice, and that's what they put for the courts.
You were a witness in that case, and you had provided a witness statement in that case.
That's right.
Were you not at all concerned in 2013 about the state of the Horizon system?
I gave my evidence, and I was cross-examined by the defence, and nothing untoward come from it.
There was something untoward. There was a prosecution, a conviction, and then
that's from
successful appeal.
At the time of the case, when I gave my evidence, there was nothing untoward come back to me in 2013 from the defence when cross-examined.
Thank you. So might that be an appropriate moment to take a lunch? Thank you.
2 o'clock?
Yes.
Fine.